Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is David Bianco. So today I'm going to reflect back a little bit on mobile fidelity. Why is that? Well, it's 2025 and it's been 2.5 years since the big brouhaha around mobile fidelity. And they've made a lot of changes and improvements over the last several years. And I want to highlight those and also talk about a situation that has happened in the last few months with one of their pressings that I want to focus on because I was able to listen to it and have some feedback on it. Now, going back, we all know that typically mobile fidelity records were all analog from the tape, getting to the lacquer with no digital steps involved, and the records always said original master recording on top. And what that meant was the original master recording was used, not a copy, but the original. As time has gone on and tape has worn over time, some of those tapes were unattainable and copies had to be used. And those would say Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab on top, an indicator that the original was not necessarily the one used for making the record. And then once the DSD gate or the digital step got in, they began marking the actual provenance or the mastering chain as we call it. And they did it at first with stickers like this one that says analog copy to DSD to analog, meaning it was cut then from a DSD tape. Now this one doesn't specify whether it was DSD 64 or DSD 256, but as they got more forward with their information and transparent, the stickers even grew to say whether it was 64 or 256. Pretty much everything now is 256. And they got away even from the sticker where it actually was placed on the actual record on the back near where the limited edition box is on these. So the life of this has been one of bringing out the truth of what the record was and how it was made, which I think was an important step for them to make. But of course, we know that came out more in a way unplanned than planned. And because of that, you know, there has been some introduction of doubt about this whole mastering chain in the industry as a whole. And more record issuers, especially reissues, are having to be very clear about that. And while that certainly has happened, what we did see happen recently was the release of MOFI's Fleetwood Macs Tango In The Night. There was in fact a production issue with the first of the two LPs, and it was involved in the mastering of it. And I got hold of one through my buddy Brad who ordered it, and it definitely lacked totally the high end on that record on side 1 and 2. The second disc on side 3 and 4 was fine and it sounded fabulous. So if they get this remastered for the first disc properly, I'm sure the whole album will then be very strong, just as that second disc is. The problem comes in the fact that this kind of came out through posts on the internet from people who kind of said what's wrong, and then people called music director MOFI and it started to bleed out. Yeah, oh, I think there was an issue with it, and okay, if put in your order, if you already ordered it, we'll send you the other disc. But there really wasn't, I would say, an announcement, or there was anything that MOFI said overtly, hey, this is what happened, we messed up, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop production or sales, I should say, of that record, which they did, and we're going to reissue the first disc, and then we'll put it back up for sale. If you bought one and have one of those original disc ones that doesn't have the top end on it, let us know and we'll send you that disc. So again, I think they're taking all the right steps, but sometimes not necessarily being totally forward with the information overtly, such as a press release or something that comes out so that people can know that. Some people may think, well, they sold out of it and that's why they don't have it, which isn't the case. They stopped sale of it, which is an honorable thing to do, obviously, because they want to minimize the amount of going back to people who've already bought it to replace the disc. They obviously have to unpackage those that they currently have in inventory and slip the correct disc number 1 in there and repackage the exterior sleeve on it. So, you know, they've got a little work to do, unfortunately. I'm not sure, honestly, how this record got out in the sense of quality checks. Was not that checked by several people and listened to before it ever got into production? It seems fairly obvious and fairly glaring, especially if you do any comparison whatsoever to any version of it you want to choose. I compared it to an original, and it was obvious right out of the box that it was lacking. So it does bring into question the QC and the amount of effort that's made in that arena. You know, we know that when Chad at Acoustic Sounds and Analog Productions does these, he A/Bs them usually against white label promos right there in his office. So he's going to be the guy who's saying, this is the cut, this is the version, or hey Bernie, do it again, or hey Ryan, do it again. So there's a very deliberate step there that's done to ensure that it meets or beats what is known as maybe the best. Well, obviously in this case that didn't happen. Now, I don't know if it's a factor of, you know, they've really been rolling. They got their own pressing plant now, and they're really, you know, they're getting restocks put back out because they're able to produce the product, which is great. But this was a first issue, a new release, and those have to be looked at in a way that doesn't assume anything, because it's the first shot out at the market. And again, I just can't imagine how a trivial comparison, honestly, would not have picked this up. So human error, it does happen, but the processes always have to be strong, whether it's in the quality of the vinyl, which I will say the pressings coming out of Fidelity Pressings have been very, very good. So they definitely are, you know, on the right track. This one somehow slipped through, so to speak. So I hope we, you know, have a correction there, not only in this case, but in the process of how they do what they do. But I do want to say they made a lot of changes, a lot of upgrades over the last 2.5 years to provide more information, to provide more product, and to be more transparent, which is great. I would have hoped in this case they would have had just a bit more transparency overtly about what the situation was so that everybody was aware of it. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the bell below and pick the all option. A thumbs up or like is appreciated, as are your comments. So until we catch you next time, here from Vintage Mio Records in Waco, Texas, thanks for joining me today. Take care, everybody.